Before you dive into the story, hit subscribe because what you're about to read will leave you breathless. A gripping journey across the world's most dangerous sea, where every wave carries a secret, every gust of wind carries a warning, and survival isn't guaranteed. Subscribe now so you never miss stories that keep you awake long after you finish reading. The night Kai stepped onto the deck of the battered vessel Aurora, he felt the weight of the world pressing against his chest. The sea before him stretched like a living beast, dark and monstrous, rolling with 1,000 unseen threats. Sailors whispered names for it: the Black Corridor, the Throat of Storms, the Wreckmaker, but maps called it simply the Vorgan Sea, known by every navigator as the most dangerous stretch of water on the planet. Kai had no desire to tame it or challenge it, he only needed to cross it, because everything he cared about waited on the other side. The engines coughed awake as the last crates were secured. Captain Mira, a woman shaped by decades of storms and salt, stood at the helm with a calmness Kai envied. She had warned him before he committed to the journey: the Vorgan doesn't kill quickly. It tests you first. He thought he understood, but those words would stay with him longer than any prayer or promise. As the Aurora pushed into open waters, the world behind Kai slowly disappeared. The coastline drowned in fog and distance until only the endless swell remained. Waves slapped against the hull like restless hands, assessing the ship, judging her worthiness. Kai gripped the railing, watching the horizon flicker with faint lightning. He told himself this was just weather, nothing more. But deep down, he sensed the sea was shifting, studying him, deciding whether he deserved mercy. By the second night, the wind had sharpened into a relentless howl that cut through the decks like a blade. Storm clouds gathered at unnatural speed, boiling black and heavy overhead, as if summoned by some unseen force. Captain Mira barked orders, and the crew moved like ghosts, quick and disciplined. Kai tried to help, but the deck pitched violently, tossing him onto the wet boards. Mira grabbed him by the jacket and pulled him upright. "If you want to make it through the Vorgan," she shouted over the screaming wind, "you have to stand, even when everything around you forces you to fall." The storm descended like a beast unchained. Waves towered high enough to blot out the sky, slamming into the Aurora with bone-crushing force. Lightning ripped across the darkness, illuminating mountains of water crashing toward them. Kai clung to the mast as the ship buckled and groaned. It felt alive, afraid but fighting, just like them. A monstrous wave hit the starboard side, dragging half the crew across the deck. Kai lunged, grabbing a rope and managing to catch one of the sailors before he disappeared overboard. The sea roared in outrage, as if angry at being denied a victim. The storm raged for hours, but each minute felt like an eternity. Kai could no longer tell sky from sea, rain from tears, thunder from the pounding of his own terrified heart. Everything blended into one violent, merciless chaos. Exhaustion took him, and he drifted in and out of consciousness until the storm finally relented. When morning arrived, it was quiet, unsettlingly quiet. The sea had transformed into a sheet of cold steel, so still it felt unnatural. The crew tended to injuries, repaired torn sails, and whispered about the storm that had nearly sunk them. But Mira stood at the bow, eyes narrowed. "This isn't over," she muttered. "The Vorgan never attacks once." Hours later, strange shapes began surfacing around the ship, towering spires of rusted metal rising from the water like bones of giants. Wreckage. Entire graveyards of ships. Their broken hulls scraped against one another with haunting creaks, creating a symphony of death. The Aurora drifted through the maze carefully, but Kai sensed something deeper lurking beneath the surface. The sea here felt heavy, almost grieving. "Every captain knows this place," Mira said quietly beside him. "These are the ones who tried to challenge the Vorgan. The sea reminds us what pride costs." Kai swallowed. "And what are we doing?" She gave a faint, grim smile. "Surviving." But the Vorgan wasn't finished testing them. As the ship pushed deeper into the wreck field, the water shifted again. A powerful undercurrent struck the hull, dragging the stern downward. The ship lurched violently, throwing crates and gear into the churning water. The crew rushed to stabilize the vessel, but the pull grew stronger, like the sea itself was trying to swallow them whole. Mira shouted for full power. Engines roared, trembling under the strain. The deck tilted. Kai grabbed hold, refusing to be claimed by the abyss. He could feel the suction beneath them, a monstrous force trying to drag them into the graveyard below. For a moment, it felt hopeless. The sea was enormous, ancient, unforgiving. The Aurora was small, fragile, temporary. But then, with a final desperate surge, the engines burst forward, breaking the undercurrent's pull. The ship shot forward like a freed arrow, leaving the clutching waters behind. When they finally cleared the wreckage, the sea calmed again. Not peacefully, but with a sense of acknowledgement, almost respect. Kai looked back at the darkness behind them and felt something shift inside him. Fear, yes, but also a strange gratitude. The Vorgon had shown him what survival truly meant. By the time the sun set on the fourth day, land appeared at the horizon, a thin golden line breaking through the dusk. Tears stung Kai's eyes, though he didn't know if it was relief or the quiet realization that he had crossed something far greater than a sea. He had crossed the limits he once believed he had. He stood at the bow, wind brushing against his face, and whispered a silent promise, "I will never forget you." The Vorgon didn't answer, but the waves, gentle now, seemed to bow in return.